welcome to the TIFF press conference for the film The Lady. I'm Maria Rowley, your press conference manager. Before we begin, please let me review a couple of housekeeping items. Once we get everyone from the film standing on the podium, we're going to have about a minute of flash photography. And then we ask all the photographers to move to the back by the risers. No flash photography during the press conference. Please keep the center aisle clear for questions, etc. Please, media, stand and identify yourself and your media outlet before you ask a question. Everyone make sure your cell phones are off. And just so you know, the press conference is being streamed live at www.tiff.net/festival. And it's now my pleasure to welcome the director, screenwriter, and the cast of The Lady, as well as our moderator, Henri Béhar. Thanks.
Okay, guys, do a left, do a center, do a right. Okay, gentlemen, ladies, photographers, thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the press conference for The Lady. And The Lady is sitting with us right center of the table as Aung San Suu Kyi, Miss Michelle Yeoh. Sitting next to her, and possibly no less a hero as she is, as Michael, the husband, Mr. David Thulis. Sitting next to him, the scriptwriter Rebecca Frayne. Sitting next to me, the director Luc Besson. Question, where did you find, possibly addressed to you, or to both of you, where did you find all those documents about Aung Suu?
Well,
and the husband in particular.
Well, it was something of a detective story, because when I began researching the project about 4 years ago, is this too echoey? Can people hear it clearly? Michael Aris had worked very discreetly in his support of his wife, and so it was very hard to get any insight into what he'd actually done on her behalf. And it took delicate negotiations with friends and family in order to trust that the story we wanted to tell would be one of integrity and honesty. So it was a delicate process of negotiation.
Because what most of us know about Sue is she was under house arrest. Her father was a leading political person in his country. Then she took over. Then she was under house arrest forever and ever. She got the Nobel Prize, and that's about it. What happened between husband and wife with the kids, I had no idea that she had 2 kids, except perhaps a remark in passing in a newspaper. There's so much flesh that is added to that cipher, for instance, that the husband is. It's kind of intriguing to try and... did the family give you all those documents, letters, reports, the Foreign Office?
It's because of the current situation in Burma. Many people who have helped us have asked not to be named, so it's difficult to be more specific about who it was. But certainly sources very close to Suu Kyi and to Michael Aris, her husband, were extremely helpful and opened up confidential files and photographs.
How much did you, the actors now, know about the characters that you were to portray before you embarked on the piece? Michelle?
Good afternoon. I obviously, coming from Malaysia, we all do know about who Dosu is, but unfortunately, because she's been in and out of house arrest since '88, we've really forgotten exactly the reasons why, who, and what was truly involved. In the last 3 years, possibly the news that came out was when the Americans swam into her compound, and her house arrest was extended for another 18 months, and then, news about her resurfaced. But by then, Rebecca and Andy had already approached me when she had finished her first draft of the script, and I knew that this was not just a role of a lifetime, but an incredible story that really needed to be told. So fortunately, this man on my left came to my rescue, because I always believe no matter what good a script is, if you don't have a director who is totally committed and dedicated to it, you won't have a story that will come to life for your audiences. And it was very important to me. I lived and breathed her for the last four years. Every day, every night, I learned Burmese. I slept with her, I woke up with her, because it was necessary, not just to mimic and give you a two-dimensional concept and feel for what she represented, who she was, but to allow you to come into her world, a world that was so full of love and passion, and a soulmate that was rarely people understood, and what these two people had that gave her this incredible strength. So it's, I don't know, I was submerged in it, and I think still very much so.
I knew a little of Suchi's story, much as anybody who reads a newspaper from time to time, and all the details you mentioned. And indeed, most recently, remembered the incident with the man swimming across the lake and the re-imprisonment. I knew nothing of Michael Aris, and when Luke called me and asked me to look at this script and asked me he'd like me to play one of the main parts, I didn't quite understand who I would be playing until I read the script, because I assumed I was going to be some man from the embassy who played some integral part, or maybe he wanted me to play a Burmese general. I'm adaptable.
Tempted as he was.
Yeah,
or the American swimmer. Let's do that next. That's good. And so was incredibly moved when I read the script, because I had no concept of what it was going to be about. It soon became clear as I went through it that it was a love story, and then still had no idea of what the outcome would be. And then, of course, gained this enormous appreciation of this man's courage, his honor, his heroism, and his huge compassion, right to the very last day of his life. And it was an extraordinary thing to try and understand for someone who usually plays very morally bankrupt people. To play someone of such high integrity was quite a stretch for me. But Luke helped.
No offense. The character, the real Sushi is, her face is very well known through papers. So it was, in a way, some kind of a job that you had to do in order to be yourself and her at the same time. As far as you're concerned, no one has any idea what Michael looks like.
Yes.
Do you? Or was that
I do now.
Was the physical aspect that you have in the film what he was in real life, or something that you invented as a plausible version of the husband?
No, well, firstly, I don't think I naturally look like as Michael looked at all. But we certainly did things to make my appearance closer to him. Obviously, wigs and eyebrows and big ears, and certain facial prosthetics. To bring me to look closer like him. I mean, if you could see, if you Google Michael, you'll see I don't look particularly like him, but I think we made a great effort to, not to say we all know what Suu Kyi looks like, but we can leave Michael looking like David Thewlis. I think we, very much tried to make me look as much like him as possible and speak as much like him as possible. And, I do have footage of him. So I had quite a few references to know what kind of man he was.
One last question from me, and then we'll take questions from the audience. If I understand what I read in some papers, Ms. Yao, and you had some problems with the Burmese authorities because you had met with Suu Kyi or worked there. What was it exactly?
The first time when I met Daw Suu was actually when we were still filming in the last week in Bangkok, in Thailand. And we had taken this decision to say, we're literally next door, we should try and go in. Luke and everybody else had their visas denied, and I was allowed to go. So I went. And I think everybody was a little bit worried for me, and I felt that it was the right thing to do. So I went, I met with Daw Suu. It was an incredible 2 days that I spent time with her. And then about 2 months ago, Luke and Virginie had their visas, and we decided that I would go and meet up with them and hopefully be able to everybody see Daw Suu again. And this time when I went there, they were very firm, very polite. They escorted me straight out of the country. They just said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I said, don't be sorry, just let me in your country. They said no. And I think they just went very clearly, very quickly to show that how closed as a country they are. And I was very saddened and disappointed by that. At that point, I was thinking, do I make a big fuss and say, no, I am not leaving until, because you have no right to deny me entry. But then I thought it wouldn't do anybody any good. And it also showed, how erratical and, irrational they were. So, in fact, they were the ones who released to the press that they had not allowed me into the country. But I will go back again. I'll be back.
Okay. Question here.
Welcome to Toronto. My name is Linda Che from Fairchild TV of Toronto. 2 questions. The first question is, Michelle, after this process of filming and playing this role, will that change your aspect on democracy and freedom? And the second question is to Luke. You make a lot of films about heroine, Jeanne d'Arc, and now Suu Kyi. Are you going to tell the story to the world that if you have strong will and confidence and faith and courage, a woman can change the world too? And for Michelle's questions, do you mind if you also answer it in either Mandarin or Cantonese, please? Because it's for the Chinese Cantonese channel. Thank you.
I think all of us who have been involved in this journey, there is no way what you feel about freedom, democracy, human rights, that it doesn't affect you, because it does make you look at the situation a lot harder and with more open eyes. I think we enjoy freedom, we take it for granted. We don't for a second think. Like when I went back to Burma the second time, I didn't stop to think that, anything could happen to me because, I'm a Malaysian citizen and I go everywhere I please. So it has affected me in many ways, and I think it will always do, because Daw Suu she was always an inspiration, but now she's given us the real understanding of what it is, strength and passion and determination with the right balance and to do the right things. 頭先我啱啱講咧就係有任何人喺我哋呢一部電影有關係，都唔會係可以唔了解乜嘢叫自由， 乜嘢係對一個人嘅行為係 freedom 係對我哋幾重要。我諗我哋每一個人喺特別我係馬來西亞人，我哋係有呢個咁樣嘅 freedom。咁變咗咧，我哋太 enjoy 呢一樣嘢。但係拍完呢部戲，我而家係開始有一個深刻嘅印象。我希望我自己係可以繼續做多啲嘢關於呢一樣嘢嘅。
She said that.
Hey, look, his son Mao knows how to write Mandarin, so Luke has absolutely knows what I'm saying.
Question over here, man. Go ahead.
No, there's,
I'm sorry.
There's a question, but I didn't hear the question. I'm sorry. You have to speak closer.
In French? No.
Please try.
Je vous demande que... Okay, anyway. You make a lot of films about women, heroine, Jeanne d'Arc, and now Suki. Like, are you going to tell the message that women with strength and faith and strong will can eventually change the world? Thank you.
They change the world. I mean, they deliver babies, and we don't. That's a big point. And yeah, I think women are the future of men. I didn't say that. Someone said it before me, but I love this line. No, I'm always very interested by the. We always say that the woman is the weak sex and the man is the strong sex, but I think what fascinates me is when you do the opposite and you talk about the strong woman and the weak man sometimes. I'm not interested by Hercules, for example. He's strong, everybody knows it. It's fine, it's boring.
Okay.
But if you take a hero, and what's interesting in a hero is this, how you say, talon d'Achille?
Achilles' heel.
Yeah.
Okay. Ma'am?
Congratulations, this is Alice, Fairchild Radio Canada. This is a two-part question for Michelle. Your portrayal of Dosu with such grace, and I'm pretty sure that you have prepared yourself tremendously over this role. Can you tell us a little bit about how you prepare for the role? And the second part is, you're such an international actress. You started in Asia, you were really big in Hollywood, you were a Bond girl, Memoir of a Geisha, and now you're in a French film. Would it be possible for you to try to use your international stardom to influence and try to bring more international cooperation between different regions of filmmakers in the world? And if you please answer in Cantonese as well as in English.
Oh dear, I better change channel and speak in Cantonese. Shall I do it in English first?
Whatever you like.
Okay. Preparing for this role really was a very great responsibility because she is such a well-known, iconic figure. When you see her, she's very recognizable. So the first thing was, with hair and makeup, we had all the things that would make me look a little bit more like her. I lost a lot of weight to play her. Then with her English, she has an amazing, beautiful English accent, which probably sounds more like Rebecca than I. She has her deportment, the way she moves. But then at the end, because that was one thing that Luke said to me, you prepare your English and your deportment, and then the rest, we will work it out on the set. So that was just work that we actors do. So I had a very good teacher that came to my house every day just to learn English all over again. Then I had to learn Burmese, and that was probably one of the most difficult. Learning Mandarin was a piece of cake compared to Burmese because the language was nothing similar to any of the languages I know, whether it was Cantonese, Mandarin, Malay. It was just on its own. So that just took sheer determination. And there was no pause in the language. It's like a song, a melody that just goes on. And it was really beautiful to hear. And I remember saying to my teacher, please make sure I say it without, a foreigner, when you speak a foreign language with that accent. And I would like when the Burmese people, when they hear it, because when Dorsu first went back to Burma, that was her biggest fear, that her Burmese sounded a little foreign because she'd spent 16 years outside of Burma. So I said a little bit of accent would probably be true, but it was just every day. I mean, for 4 months, 6 months, I was saying my Shawadagon speech. Before, as I'm opening my eyes, I can hear myself speaking in Burmese. So that was just what you do as an actor. The research, we had hundreds and hundreds of hours of research that was done by Rebecca and Carrie, and back in Europa Corp as well. So there was a lot of reading material. But I felt to get to know the woman, I needed to know what was behind her thoughts. So I tried to read the books that she would read. Gandhi was a big favorite of hers. Why she advocated nonviolence. Fortunately, she's a Buddhist and I'm a Buddhist, so it was easier to come to terms with a lot of things. And just watching her every day, and then I realized it wasn't just mimicking her and doing the things that she did, because we all know the eyes are the windows of the soul. And for me to convey, if she had strength or doubts or pain, a lot of the times it had to come when you look into my eyes. And I hope through that you would be able to feel her pain. And when I first started to do research, one thing I found was some people actually said, how could she have done that? That's so cold, you know? No one should be able to have that kind of strength to leave 2 young sons behind, a husband that she loved so much. And I hope in our film what we show is the real human side of her.
Now the same in Cantonese, please.
Oh, God. I could do it in Burmese now. 啱啱開始研究呢部電影嘅時間，呢個角色嘅時候咧，係一定要做好多 research 嘅。咁好彩咧，2間公司 Europa Corp 同埋 Left Bank 佢哋之前已經開始籌備好多樣嘢。咁係日每一日 from 一起身到夜晚黑瞓覺，都係睇住佢，聽住佢，睇佢啲書嘅。咁你會先深入呢個人嘅想法，唔係淨係知道佢點講話、點樣行路。嗰樣嘢係比較表面，但係你要了解同埋可以同情佢嗰個心態嘅時間咧，我係要令到你望到我眼嘅時間，你係知道佢感受啲乜嘢嘢咯。That was easy. Shortcut.
Now, the second part of the question was, can you use your international stardom in order to bring peace to the world, basically?
Thank you.
And the question might be extended to also you, Mr. Thulis. As an actor, how do you go about it? Do you go, as an actor, my place is on the screen, as a citizen, my place is in the street? Or is it all one and the same?
Go on.
I'm going to answer this in Northern English. I feel personally it's only when one does a film such as this that one is really required to become involved in politics in a press conference or the press we're doing today, where one gets asked one's political opinion. But by taking part in a film like this, one obviously advocates these causes. I'm really not quite sure how to answer the question of whether one can change the world. I think this particular film will hopefully have some ripple effect into the outside world in bringing it into the public consciousness, in bringing Aung San Suu Kyi's cause and the Burmese suffering into the public consciousness, and that people will pursue it in the press and through the internet and find out more if they're inspired by this story, if they're touched by this woman's courage, to find out a little more about her and spread the word, because she really is one of the most admirable people I've ever come across in my life. And I'd really think it's worth further investigation for anyone who is very, has more political motivation and has more influence on the world to learn more about her, particularly at the moment when there's so much else going on in the world and the Burmese struggle is in danger of being forgotten. So I hope this film will just bring it up into the spotlight a little more. Did anyone understand that?
Actually, your question is a very good question to pose to Mr. Besson, because, as a producer and as a director, because generally as actors, we try our best to be able to be involved with movies around the world. But the people that really, really can bridge us all together, when, the writer, she chose to write something about Burma, and Luke writes about places all over the place, right? In Taken. So we need to encourage him to take a great interest in our culture so that he will make more movies there.
Luc, would you please answer this in
Can I do it
Cantonese?
in Cantonese? No.
我覺得咧，as 一個演員，當然我哋會係盡力去拍好多電影係唔同樣國家嘅，但係其實最重要咧就係好似 Luc Besson 咁嘅大導演、監製，同埋佢係編劇嚟嘅。咁如果我哋可以令到佢有興趣係寫關於我哋嘅國家，一係我哋嘅 culture 嘅時間咧，咁我哋有個 better possibility， 電影會喺我哋個嘅地方嗰度拍咯。
Bonjour, Anne Charon de l'agence France Presse. I will ask my question in English and you may choose, Mr. Besson, to answer in French and in English if you want. I'd like you to hear you about the shooting of the movie. I hear that you've been shooting in Thailand mainly, where you were able to make some footage, general view in Rangoon. I saw at the very end of the movie that you use also some original, genuine footage from journalist, Burmese activist. And I have a last question. What is your personal feeling regarding Aung San Suu Kyi? Because she actually sacrificed her family. The family paid a heavy price, but unfortunately, she didn't achieve yet so far. She didn't achieve much so far in her country. She didn't make the difference.
La première, c'était quoi?
La première, c'est sur le tournage. Tu as tourné en Thaïlande.
Yeah, we shot mainly in Thailand, not so far from the Burmese frontier, in fact. And before to shoot in Thailand, we went with 3 different teams in Burma with a numeric camera who looks like a normal camera, in fact, so no one was paying too much attention to us. But we have a specific plan to be able to take some shots from Rangoon to mix with the film to really give a real flavor of this country, which, by the way, is one of the most beautiful country I've seen. It's beautiful. The people are wonderful, except that they can't move and they can't do anything. But it's a wonderful country, and so I shot like 16 hours in Burma that we use sometime on a green screen that you can see in the film toward the end, where every time you see the Shwedagon thing that was made over there. And yes, a couple of shots was made by a activist, and obviously we can't tell their name. Actually, it's the first time that I made a film where an actor asked me not to be on the credit, because all these wonderful young actors who plays in the film, the small parts, they don't want their names on the credits because they're too afraid that they will do something on their families.
Ma'am?
Yes, I had a question for Rebecca Frayne. Rebecca, I wanted to ask you. Oh, it's Kate Taylor from the Globe and Mail. I wanted to ask Rebecca why she chose to write the script.
Pardon, qui était quoi, rappelez-moi? Il vous a répondu sur les activistes.
J'avais une autre question qui concernait votre sentiment personnel, parce qu'elle a fait payer un prix très lourd à sa famille, mais pour le moment, elle n'a pas réussi à
Okay, sorry, back to the... We forgot the second part of the question. My apologies. About the fact that Suu Kyi's family paid a very, very heavy price for something that she hasn't achieved yet. Or has she? That was the question. That's not my opinion. Luc, c'était à toi.
You know, I think that there is thousands and thousands of people who give their life for their country and for democracy. My grandfather, for example, and you don't ask yourself, is it going to work? Do we going to win the war? Do we going to win the democracy? You just have to do it. You have to do it because you love the people around you, you love your family, and you're fighting for something that you think it's true. And so no matter what, I mean, for me, Dasu today, no matter what, she's immortal.
The lady from the Globe and Mail, and the gentleman and the lady.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to ask Rebecca about the original motivation behind the script. Why did you choose to tell this story? How did you find it?
Well, I've made a number of films about extraordinary women of our times, and so I'm always looking for subjects that celebrate women. And in '91, I went to Burma on a trip with my husband, who's also co-producing this with Virginie, and Suu Kyi had been under house arrest then for a year, and I was very struck by the country, by how demoralized people were, by how difficult their lives were, and by the sense of hope that they had invested in Suu Kyi, and that was really the only thing that seemed to be keeping them going. So I always watched her story from afar, and about 4 years ago, I thought it would be interesting to try and find a way of bringing her story alive, because she had been under house arrest for a very long time by then. There was no movement forward, as this lady here has just said, in Burma. And I thought it would be very interesting to try and find out more about the human aspect of her story. I knew that she had been married to an Oxford academic, but really not much more than that. And as I began to look into it, it became clear that it was a great, wonderful, untold love story. And that in being asked to choose between her country and her family, it was an extraordinary moral crisis for her, really. And I thought that would be a very interesting foundation for a script.
Allow me to piggyback on this lady's question. Since you've dealt with several extraordinary women, isn't there a danger, or is there a danger when you deal with such characters of such amplitude? And I would assume that if we dealt with men, Gandhi would come to mind. Isn't there a danger when you start telling their story to turn them into saints?
Yes, in fact, one of the initial problems I encountered when I wrote the first draft is it's much easier to tell the story of a sinner than it is a saint, and that was a real challenge. And I think it was in finding out more about Michael Aris that I began to see a way of bringing her and her family and the dilemmas she faced to life. I think it is a great challenge, and I think Michelle's done a remarkable job in giving humanity to a very extraordinary woman who does verge on saintliness, and that's a very hard thing to portray, and it's quite a hard thing to relate to as an audience. And I think that's what's so brilliant about Michelle's achievement and the way that Luc has given her humanity.
Luc, do you have a comment?
No, I would love to tell a little story, in fact, if you don't mind, who happens on the set, who is maybe a nice resume. When we did this scene, the most difficult scene for Michelle, which is the speech at Shwedagon in Burmese, and she was very nervous because she learned the speech for 4 months. And on the stage, there is like 15 members of the NLD, which is the National League for Democracy, and all these actors, or not actors, in fact, they're Burmese. They're all 60 years old, and she did a first take in Burmese, the entire speech. It was very amazing, but on stage there is like 3 or 4 Burmese who was crying, and I came next to them and I said, "Are you okay?" He said, "Yeah, but 20 years ago I was in the crowd watching her from the crowd, so I'm very touched to be next to her today." So maybe that answer about what we were talking about, is it worth it to fight for something? So I think it's worth it.
Sir?
Jeff Hodgson with Reuters. Michelle, you had the chance to meet with her for 2 days. What did she think about this project and the film? It goes into some very personal material. Was she a bit apprehensive? Was she hopeful it would raise awareness? What were her thoughts on it?
When I went to see Dosu, we were almost wrapping up in Thailand. And it was very interesting. You know, when I was approaching the house, it was almost eerie because as I went through the gates, I thought, I was just here yesterday. Because we had built the set and it looked exactly the way it was. And as I walked up the stairs, I'm like, oh no, it's not my room. You know, what's going on here? Then when I saw her, you know, someone that you think you know so well, that you've been living with for the last 4 years is suddenly in front of you. And all she did was she just held out her arms and gave me the biggest hug. And you feel she's very slender, but not for a moment do you feel that this is a very fragile woman she's on the verge of collapse. There was great strength and an aura about her. Then she sits down, and the way she talks to you, she's very smart, but she doesn't make you feel like she's going to judge you on anything that you're going to say. She's got a great sense of humor, and she's very quick to make you feel comfortable. And she laughs, she's very quick to laugh. But what I found, which was different from what I had expected, was that she moved very quickly. She had this amazing energy. I thought she would be very zen, you know, she would float across the room, you know, with great grace. And she was like, whoo, shoo, you know, it was like you couldn't sort of capture her and sit her down, but you could feel that, you know, this is what she needs you to feel the energy and be with her and understand all the things. So it was fantastic. I think I just stared at her for a few minutes, like, and she just held my hand. And so I think we never spoke about the film. I think it was conscious on my part, on both our parts, because in no way would we want to put her in danger in case, you know, they turn around and say, how could you, you know, be giving information like that and talking about the army in such a bad way. If you look at all her interviews that she's always done, and even to date, she always stresses that she's been well treated by them. All the time that she's been under house arrest, she just needs to start a dialogue. So it was in an incredible position to be in. And I did ask her, I said, you know, it will come out one day that we are both sitting here. And she said, this is a family visit. I was there with my brother, and she was there with Kim, and she said, this is a very nice family visit, and that was what it was.
Okay, would you be so kind as to repeat that in Cantonese, please?
我第一次見到多蘇嘅時間，當然我好緊張，因為呢個人已經同我喺埋一齊4年多，日日夜夜我都見住佢。咁佢第一次入嚟嗰間房嘅時間，我唔知道點，但係佢好快就擁抱。咁佢係好瘦，但係你唔覺得佢唔係一個弱者嚟嘅，佢係好強。同埋我以為佢會係行路好慢啊，好柔和，但係佢係有一個好特別嘅 energy。我哋喺嗰個時間咧係冇講過個電影，我諗我哋係刻意係咁樣做。同埋嗰陣時間，我問佢：如果有一日人哋問我點解我會嚟呢度探你，咁你咪話呢個係一個family 家人嘅談班。
What she means is, never mind. Ma'am, and then the gentleman, those will be the last 2 questions.
This is Serena from Newtown Dynasty TV station. I actually watched the movie this morning and absolutely love it. So it's great to see you all guys in the afternoon in Toronto in the real life. I actually have 2 questions, and the first one for Michelle and the director. So after shooting the movie, you guys were rejected to go back to Burma. So what kind of impact do you guys think the movie makes in human rights issues in Southern Asian countries? And the second question...
Let's start with the first question.
There is a great interest in the movie, and I'm very proud to know that. Since I was just back in Beijing and in Hong Kong, and everyone in Singapore, Malaysia, India, everyone is very excited to see the film. And I think there is a real true interest in what Dosu is about. Since her release from house arrest, she has been given a lot of talks with Hong Kong U at the BBC, and she has dialogue with the rest of the world, except with the people in her country that leads the country, which is a real shame. I was rejected, but Luke actually went in to see her.
Tu veux commenter?
No, I think, you know, like, except North Korea and Burma, all the other countries in Asia are democracy. So I think they will be very happy to watch the film.
There you go. And your second question was?
And the second question, Michelle, you have played so many successful roles in so many different movies. So what attracted you the most in this character, and how do you like it?
I think when I first received Rebecca's script, I told my agent, I want to meet them right away. And I got on the plane, I went to London, and we met. And because the story was just so moving, because we know more about the political side and, you know, the problems that they have, but we don't know about this incredible love story, this soulmate that she had, who did everything possible to ensure her safety, to, you know, when you love someone, you don't try and change them. And I think he always knew what she was about. And in fact, when they first got married, this was one thing that she said to him: if ever my country needed me, you would have to, you know, support that. And that was what he did right until the day he died. And it was, because we are Asians, I think we understand this mentality maybe a little bit more. She couldn't marry an Englishman because she was Burmese. And as a Burmese, this was one thing that the army always used against her, that you're a traitor. How can you not even marry a Burmese if you want to be our political leader? But she knew that this was the love of her life. And he was. So how could I pass up a chance to play someone who was just so powerful and incredible, such an inspiration?
Thank you. The same in Thai. Sir.
From Mexico. David, what did you find more challenging as an actor, working in a drama like this one, or comedies? I don't know. What do you like more?
Do I find the most challenging working in drama or comedies? Well, that really depends on each individual project, I suppose. Comedies are more fun to do. Playing bad guys are sometimes more fun. In this particular case, it wasn't the case, because I'm a very, very, very honourable man. This was incredibly challenging to remain true to the integrity of the piece, and since it was an ongoing story involving highly sensitive issues, and that we had to be very careful to get the tone right in the filmmaking and the writing and the performances. I felt a great deal of responsibility for this particular film. You know, when you do a comedy, you feel a great deal of responsibility to make people laugh. It depends on each individual film, be them dramas, comedies, horror films, science fiction films. You'd have to ask me about two specific films.
I'm afraid our time is up. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.